Today we are talking to Australian author, Gordon Smith, about his novel, The Sensual Retiree.
Gordon, where do you prefer to compose most of your writing?
I prefer to compose and formulate my stories away from the hustle and bustle of the world. I like getting inspiration while looking over the passage at Golden Beach, Karanja on Queensland's Sunshine Coast.
What inspired you to write The Sensual Retiree?
After my previous book, The Ministry Communications Unit, was published, one of the elderly ladies in the village I live in asked me, "Why don't you write a story about sex in a retirement village?" I think she may have been thinking along the lines of an exposé of some people who live in retirement. I rejected that idea, although it gave me the impetus to write The Sensual Retiree.
And when did you decide on the subject?
Talking to some younger people, younger than 60 or so, I gathered their thoughts on retirement were along the lines of, when a person retires, they grab all their savings and cruise around the world, until the money runs out, then, they just sit around, bored silly, and wait until the end comes. I knew this was not the case, so I set out on a journey of discovery. As well as drawing from my own experiences of retirement, I sought out other retirees and asked what they thought retirement was all about. I now had the bare bones of my story. I now started to seek out inspiration for the locations of the story. The Sunshine Coast, especially Karanja, would be the ideal location, particularly, as there is a large population of seniors there and over 200 retirement villages throughout the region. I was also able to use my experience of cruising to set the scenes while the characters were on board cruise ships. I was able to base the background for Joan and Phil's journey together as, during my working life, I travelled a lot, especially while being employed as a tour coach captain, taking groups all over Australia. As I had also been involved as a road construction traffic manager, I understood the psyche of main road engineers and management. I opted to set the story as Joan was being interviewed for a magazine special to be published celebrating Senior Citizens Week.
How did you decide on the title?
I wanted the title to include retirement or older people. I also wanted the title to dispel the thinking that retirees are too old to even think about sex and relationships, let alone explore the possibilities.
How did you decide on the length of your story?
I had not given any thought to the size of the story, however it became obvious to me that although I wanted to include relationships, good and not so good, I needed to keep the story interesting.
What do you consider the strongest, most emotional phrase in the story?
This is a difficult question to answer. When Phil passed away while on an RFDS aircraft was probably the first major emotional phrase. While there are many throughout the story, the romance between a gay Hollywood producer and Melody is unexpected. The romance between Joel and Felicity, a retired nun, is heartwarming and uplifting. Joan's romances are also very emotional. However, I think the strongest phrase was after Phyllis discovered who her father was, and she exclaimed, "Anyway, my mother's name was Jocelyn Moran." It now appears that as well as me being a bastard, my mother was, shall we say, a woman loose with her favors. Now I am probably an incestuous woman who has had intercourse with her half-brother.
Thank you for your time today.
The Sensual Retiree is available in both paperback and ebook formats from Amazon. You can explore The Sensual Retiree on Amazon.